Okay, YouTubers, this is the In-Group Prepper. So today's video, we're going to talk about how 15-minute cities will save you. Now, of course, guys, that's BS. That is the biggest BS I had to start out the video with. 15-minute cities will not save you. But the elites, the people in charge, whoever it is, seems to think that it will save us because it will cut down on emissions from cars and vehicles. It will also eradicate vehicles because you won't need them because you live 15 minutes away from anything you need, whether that's your job, activities, food, supermarket, you name it. That's what a 15-minute city is. So now we're starting to see more and more talks about this, and of course I come across an article stating something about 15-minute cities and their benefits. Now, of course, the first thing they point out is that everything will be 15 minutes within or from your home or where you work. So it's 15 minutes to your job, 15 minutes to a supermarket, and that's max. I mean, it could be 2-3 minute walk, whatever it is, but 15 minutes to go to the movie theaters, 15 minutes to go to a restaurant, and that limit. Now, a city like New York City, it would be hard to make it a 15-minute city because of just how people are. You're not going to tell me that I can't go into the next zone, because that's how they're going to also do it for bigger cities, is they're going to zone it in such a way where you live in a 15-minute zone A, 15-minute zone B, C, and so on and so forth. And if you live in zone B and go into zone A, they're going to sit there and question why you're there at first. Then when they get really strict with it, they're not going to allow you to go in a 15-minute zone A if you live in B, unless something happened in your zone where the restaurants are shut down or the supermarket was on fire, whatever the hell is. Then you can travel to zone A or C if you have to. Now, if you don't have to, in the future, they're probably going to wind up shutting. You won't be able to spend in zone A or C or D for that matter, right? So you have to stay in zone B, if that makes any sense. And this is where it's going. Now, a lot of people are like, that's a bit much. You're getting carried away. Look where the fuck we are now. And look what we said a year ago, 2 years ago, about where we were going to be. And people said, you were crazy. That's stupid. That's never going to happen. And then look. I remember saying specifically, they're going to have a lot of us lose our jobs over the arm ticket. And look what happened. A lot of us had to bounce, retire, move on because of the mandatory arm ticketing. And when we said that was going to happen, we were stupid and crazy. Now look what happened. Just because, guys, you use different words or wording or phrases doesn't mean that wasn't their ulterior motive, to make us take something we didn't need by forcing us through way of our jobs. You're going to lose money if you don't do this. And how many people took these arm tickets because they didn't want to lose their jobs? How many people wore a mask because they didn't want to lose their jobs? They worded it in such a way where it wasn't exactly forcing us, because they gave us an option. And losing your job is not an option, but they all said that. Well, you didn't have to quit. You didn't have to retire. You could have just did that. Well, then that's forcing. Anyway, with 15-minute cities, guys, they are starting to say that it could save lives, because with less emission, with less pollution, it will drastically drive down climate change, because we won't be using as many cars to get around. We'll be using bicycles and or walking or scooters or skipping, whatever the fuck you do to get to where you're going to go. And that's how they're looking at it. So less emissions means less carbon emission, which means less problems in the atmosphere, which then fixes climate change, because climate change could be reversed according to them, though they're completely missing out the fact that there's a lot going on with the planet itself and space. It's why there's a lot of climate change. They're not even paying attention. Well, they're not focusing on the activities of the sun and how it's heating up and doing this thing. They're just blaming it on climate change. Never mind the absorbent amount of sun activity happening as we speak. They're just omitting that, and they're saying it's the cars and the cows, but they're also missing the giant factories that are going on in other countries. Now, we are watching a lot of places turn into 15-minute cities. Paris is a pretty big city that's converting themselves into 15-minute cities. Again, they're going to do it through way of zoning. Because it's such a big city, they're going to do it through way of zoning. And for now, they're going to try to have people stay within their zones. The crazy shit, guys, if you live in Paris, and I've never been to Paris, but if you live in Paris and your favorite restaurant happens to be in Zone B, but you live in Zone A, now they're going to tell you, they're going to advise you not to go to Zone B, to your favorite restaurant that you've been going to for the last 25 fucking years, and all of a sudden they start zoning it out and you can't go it anymore. That's the kind of shit they're going to start pulling. Now, at first, they're going to leave it as such. They're going to zone it and let you cross over and then, of course, collect data and see what's helping and what's not. And, of course, if you're favoring a certain restaurant because that's your spot, and that's been your spot for the last 20, 25 years, how are they going to replicate that restaurant and put it in your zone, right? And they're probably not going to do that. So, again, Paris is being one of many cities that are going to have 15-minute cities. We're all watching real closely what's going on in Hawaii right now because we all have the suspicion that what happened in Maui wasn't an accident. It was done on purpose, and we're hearing rumors of land grab things going on in Maui as well. Plus, you also have Oahu and a couple of other cities that are looking to convert to 15-minute cities as well. They want to start with something smaller to test it out to see if it can work. New York City talked about it, but it was completely shut down by almost everybody here. I mean, we're talking about every politician who's a liberal was like, no, that's not going to work because we have too many favorite restaurants in different spots in the city. So it's hard to pull that off. And that was one of the arguments. And there were a couple other arguments as well. So, again, New York City, for now, is safe from being a 15-minute city, but the talk was out there. So, again, I don't see it happening. I don't really see it ever happening here, but, again, stranger things have happened. Now, many cities here in the United States are talking about and or signed up to be smart cities or 15-minute cities. Portland was one that announced just recently that they were looking to become a smart city, a 15-minute city. Again, smart cities and 15-minute cities are one and the same. Their objective is to clean the air and save the environment. So, of course, Portland being as liberal and clean air as they are. Listen, I get the whole clean air thing. I do. Clearly, guys, like, if you live in a city, asthma rates are high because of all the shit that we have to deal with and we breathe in, such as life. You have asthma, take your fucking, vagina lungs and go somewhere the fuck else, But there also have been a lot of asthma patients that have dealt with living in the cities. They're not being bitches and crying about it. They're just like, I got my asthma pump. I'm going to do what I need to do. That's it. But you also have those with fucking weasel lungs that are like, oh, the air's too bad for my kids. They can't live here. Then fucking move, fucko. Simple as that. But nonetheless, guys, they're converting a lot of places to clean the air and to make it easier on us to travel around so that we don't need cars. Because when they start making places in the 15-minute cities, guys, when they start making places smart cities, they're going to sit there and go, well, your car is now illegal, or they grandfather your car in, but no new cars that run on gasoline can be accepted in the city. I forgot what country. I think it's China or maybe it's Japan, where you need to have a parking garage to own a car, so that you can't just get a car haphazardly like we do here in the States. You have to have a parking garage. You have to have a license, a parking garage, then you can get a car. If you don't have a parking spot or a garage, you cannot get a car. You're not granted access to a car. That's some fucking crazy shit. They can eat my dick, whichever country it is. So basically, guys, they're sitting here trying to say that these cities, smart cities and or 15-minute cities, are going to save our lives. It's not about saving our lives. It's about control. It's about the ultimate control. Yes, they're going to give that olive branch or that hope to people that are going to sit there and go, well, this is going to clean the air and it's going to save the environment. It's going to do all these things. It's about control. It's about watching you closely, seeing how you move, where you move. If you go in an area where you don't belong, they could freeze your account or freeze your spending in that area or restrict you from spending in that area. So again, if you live in Zone B and you go to Zone C, they're like, why the fuck is this asshole in Zone C? Frozen, restricted. So now you got to go back to Zone B and then you can spend and buy what you want. Again, big cities like this, it's not going to work. I don't know how they're going to pull it off in Paris, because I know in Paris people do travel to their favorite restaurants that are not in there, that are not in a 15-minute zone or area or space from them. It's probably, without a doubt, outside that space in half-hour, 45-minute train ride or whatever it is, or bike ride or skipping, because in France they fucking skip with baguettes and stupid hats on their heads. But anyway, Not the point. The point is, guys, it's going to be hard to do it with a bigger city. I am very interested to see how Paris is going to pull this off, but I don't see it happening here in New York because we're just too volatile and we're not the French. Anyway, guys, this is the Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching.